Have you ever wondered what it feels like to wake up inside the life you once only imagined? Not years from now. What if I told you there is no distance between where you are and where you desire to be, except your assumption of being? In this video, I will reveal how I quantum jumped to my dream life, not by effort, but by living in the end. Let me take you into the inner chambers of the mind, where reality bends to imagination. Not so long ago, I found myself deeply yearning for a life that seemed far removed from my present. I was living modestly, drifting through circumstance like a leaf upon the river, until I discovered the power of quantum jumping dream life through the creative use of imagination. You see, the great secret is that everything already exists. All possibilities, all versions of you awaiting your assumption. What the world calls quantum jumping is nothing but the soul moving across states of consciousness. I did not change the world. I changed only my concept of self, and the world rearranged itself to reflect it. I began with a single idea. I am already the man who lives his dream life. I did not wait for permission. I did not beg time to be kind. I simply assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I saw myself living in that desired end. I felt the warmth of it, the reality of it, until the outer world had no choice but to yield. Each night before I slept, I entered the state akin to sleep and visualized with clarity, not the process, but the result. I saw myself in my desired home, speaking from the place of success, walking in abundance. I heard the congratulations, the laughter, the joy. I quantum jumped, not through space, but through consciousness. And then, slowly, subtly, but undeniably, life began to change. I did not make things happen, they flowed. Opportunities appeared, people shifted, and what was once a distant fantasy became my living, breathing reality. This is not magic, it is law, the law of assumption. And this law knows no limit, save the limit you accept within your own mind. All versions of you already exist, you select, not create. Quantum jumping is shifting states of consciousness, not physical places. Imagination is the doorway to your desired reality. Feel as if you already are the person you wish to be. Reality reshapes itself around your sustained assumption. Enter the state akin to sleep to impress the subconscious mind. Ignore the outer world, remain loyal to the inner vision. Your dream life is not in the future, it exists now, in consciousness. You are not striving to become something new, you are selecting from the infinite. Within the vastness of creation, every version of you already is. The moment you understand this, the struggle ends. What you call desire is simply awareness of a possibility that already exists. You do not create the future, you align with it. Imagine a vast mansion with countless rooms, each representing a state of being. Wealth, love, success, peace. You are not building these rooms, you are walking into them. The act of assuming a new identity is nothing but stepping into a different room within the house of God, the house of consciousness. And just as you do not need to destroy one room to enter another, so too must you not destroy the present to access the desired. It is done by consciousness. Consciousness is the only reality. All states exist now. The state you occupy determines your world. When you shift the state you dwell in, everything outside begins to echo that new inner alignment. But here is the mistake most make. They believe they must force reality into place. They strive, they labor, they push without a means. And so they remain in the room of effort, of separation, of waiting. The key is not in effort, but in assumption. You assume the tone, the inner feeling of already being the person you desire to be. The senses may deny it, the world may argue against it, but the inner conviction must remain unmoved. That inner movement is the true quantum jump. When I first heard this truth, I tested it not with great ambition, but with a quiet inward act of faith. I would choose a version of myself that felt more alive, more whole, more at peace. I would not chase it. I would not beg it to arrive. I would live from it, inwardly. I would carry its feeling with me like a secret treasure. And in time, what I inwardly accepted became outward fact. You must learn to live in imagination as though it were more real than the world you see. This is not fantasy. It is creation's blueprint. The imagination is not idle. It is not a place of escape. It is the workshop of God, the womb of reality. What you dare to assume as true in imagination must by law take form in the world. Now let this be understood. There are no accidents. There are only states. And every event in your life springs forth from the state you most consistently occupy. If you dwell in the state of being unloved, unworthy, or poor, your world will reflect it without fail, not because the world is cruel, but because it is obedient. It yields to your inner command, which is issued not through words, but through the felt assumption of identity. You do not need to know how the change will occur. The bridge of incidents will appear naturally. It may seem strange or unrelated, but every step will lead you toward the fulfillment of your assumed end. Do not concern yourself with the mechanics of it. That is not your domain. Your only task is to remain faithful to the state you have chosen. This is true faith. Not hoping, not waiting, but knowing. I once knew a man who longed to be free from the constraints of his life. He wanted success. Yet everything in his world seemed to argue against it. I told him, forget what is, let the world be. Enter into the state of being successful, not tomorrow, now. Speak from it, think from it. Walk as though the world already honors your success. He did. Quietly, without announcing it to others, he assumed that inner posture. Within weeks, opportunities arose. People he had not heard from in years reached out, and doors that had been shut flung open. The outer world danced to the rhythm of his new state. You see, you are always selecting. Every emotion you feel, every thought you entertain is a movement into a specific state. These states are not passive, they are alive. Each has its own structure, its own relationships, its own outcomes. The moment you accept a new state, you call into your world the circumstances that belong to it. You need not fix the old, simply step into the new. Let the old dissolve. It cannot follow you into the room you do not occupy. This is why it is said, let the dead bury the dead. The moment you assume the new, the old begins to fade. It may resist, it may linger, but it has no power unless you return to it in thought and feeling. Remain in the state you desire and let the world rearrange itself. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are the chooser, the selector, the operant power. Every time you close your eyes and enter into a new assumption of self, you quantum jump, not across time but across identity, not into fantasy but into reality, a reality that already is, waiting for you to claim it as your own. So I urge you, choose wisely. Do not dwell in states you no longer wish to experience. Do not argue with the present. Simply move inwardly and persist. All versions of you already exist. You need not become. You only need to be. Man believes he must go somewhere to receive his desire, that he must travel, acquire, or climb upward through toil. But I tell you, all change happens within. You do not move through space to reach the thing you seek. You move through states of consciousness. This is the real journey. The only distance between where you are and where you wish to be is the change of mind. Quantum jumping, as it is now spoken of, is not a leap through time nor a shift across planets. It is the inward re-identification with a version of yourself who already possesses the thing you long for. The outer world may appear unchanged for a time, but the inner state, once shifted, causes the outer to conform. You are not a creature subject to external tides. You are the center of your universe. As the state within shifts, the reflections you behold must follow. There is no way to stop this law. You are always occupying a state, knowingly or unknowingly, and the conditions of your life are its fruit. If you would change the outer, do not attempt to wrestle with it. Instead, close your eyes and change your dwelling place. Change the consciousness from which you live. When I speak of states, I do not speak of moods or passing emotions. I speak of spiritual positions, fixed attitudes of being. To dwell in the state of abundance is to live as though lack is no longer your truth. To inhabit the state of love is to respond to life as one already cherished and embraced. You need not tell others of this shift. The state itself will speak. Your words will change. Your tone will shift. The energy you exude will make others respond to you differently, though they know not why. There is no need to seek permission from the world to be what you desire. The world is but a mirror, and it mirrors the state in which you abide. If you move inwardly to the state of being successful, the world cannot help but reflect success back to you. Not because you demanded it outwardly, but because you accepted it inwardly. Now observe carefully, every time you say, I am, you are placing yourself into a state. I am tired, and the body complies. I am unwanted, and the world plays its part. I am prosperous, and prosperity begins to show itself. The words are not idle, they are assignments. Each one leads you deeper into the reality you claim. You cannot speak the word and remain apart from its experience. You are drawn to fulfill it. So what then is the act of quantum jumping? It is the disciplined movement of consciousness from one identity to another. It is not a dramatic event. It is quiet, inward, subtle. You sit in your chair, yet inwardly you ascend. You close your eyes, and through the faculty of imagination, you see and feel yourself as already that which you desire to be. You do not merely observe it, you become it. You do not wish, you live it within. This is not pretension, it is not delusion, it is creation at its purest. For all creation begins with the assumption that what is imagined is true. If you will not assume it, you cannot live it. If you believe yourself still lacking, then that is the state you occupy. And no amount of physical effort will undo the spiritual identification. There was a time in my own journey when I longed to teach these truths to many, yet my outer world knew me not. I was not called to speak. No platform awaited me. But I did not beg for recognition. I did not ask the world to change. I went within and moved to the state of being already heard. I saw myself speaking. I felt the warmth of connection with those who listened. I heard their responses in my mind before any had heard a word. I walked as the man already received. And soon the invitations came, the platform arose. The world, without knowing it, responded to the state I had chosen. The beauty of this path is that it requires nothing but your willingness to believe. The door to any state is open to the one who dares to say, I am. No key is needed but your assumption. No gatekeeper stands in your way. Only the doubt within can bar you from the state you long to inhabit. Let this be your understanding, that you are not bound to any one life, any one version of yourself. You are not stuck. You are not held hostage by circumstances. You are the dreamer, and you may awaken to any dream you choose. To quantum jump is to rise inwardly, to abandon the self you no longer wish to carry, and to embrace a new self with full conviction. So do not ask the world to confirm what you do not first confirm within. Do not beg time to make you what you refuse to become in consciousness. Close your eyes, dwell in the desired state, and remain there, not for seconds, but as a way of being. From this inner residence, your outer life will be reshaped, not by your hands, but by law, a law that never fails. You do not need to go anywhere. You only need to go within. Imagination is not idle. It is not child's play, nor a fantasy to be indulged only in moments of whim. It is the secret faculty by which the invisible becomes seen, by which the formless takes shape. It is the only doorway through which your desired reality may enter. Everything you now call real The chair upon which you sit, the roof above your head, the world around you, was once only imagined. It was first conceived in the unseen, in the silence of thought, before it was ever touched, heard, or held. And if you would change your world, you must first change your imaginal activity. You must dare to use the only power that shapes reality, your inner vision. There is no power outside of this. You may seek for change through toil, through action, through external effort, and you may gain something of the world, but you will not truly transform. For transformation begins in imagination. The state you wish to inhabit already exists, and imagination is the bridge to it. You do not need to build the bridge, you need only walk across it, inwardly. Each time you imagine something with feeling, you call it into being. The law is infallible. The world will not reflect what you wish for, it will reflect what you imagine and feel to be true. The moment you dare to believe in the reality of your imaginal act, you shift your place in consciousness, and by doing so, you alter your world. Imagination creates. It does not merely observe or reflect, it brings forth. And what you imagine with conviction will one day stand before you in flesh and form as surely as the sun rises. There was once a time I sat in lack, financially restrained, socially unknown, without position or status. Yet I would sit in my chair and close my eyes, and with my inner sight, I would climb into a different world. I would see myself in the life I desired, feel the freedom of it, touch the objects, hear the voices. I did not merely look at this vision, I entered into it. I lived from it. And though nothing in my outer world had changed, within me something shifted permanently. From that day forward, the world moved. Circumstances realigned. Invitations came, resources appeared, doors opened, not by accident, but by law. For when the inner man moves, the outer world must follow. This is not theory. This is not hope. This is the truth of being. You do not need the permission of the world to be what you already are in imagination. The world is slow to respond, but respond it must. When you claim a thing within, you make it law. You give it the only authority it needs. And what is claimed inwardly will find its way to you through people, events, and unexpected channels, all orchestrated by a power far beyond the intellect. But the key is persistence. You must remain in the imaginal act, not once, but again and again, until the imaginal scene takes on the tones of reality. You must see it so vividly that you forget where you are. You must lose yourself in it so completely that the senses become secondary. That moment, that complete absorption is when the seed is planted. And from that seed, the fruit must grow. Do not imagine as though you are watching a play. Imagine as though you are living it. Feel it, touch it, smell the air of your new world, hear the voices congratulating you. Feel the weight of success, of peace, of love upon your shoulders. This is the art. This is the work. And it is done in stillness. When you know how to use your imagination rightly, nothing is withheld from you. You are no longer a servant to conditions, but a master of your destiny. For conditions are but shadows. They come and go, responding to the light you project from within. If you wish to change your circumstances, change your imaginal activity. Do not entertain scenes of failure, of lack, of struggle. These are states, and if you give life to them in imagination, they will give life to themselves in form. Do not blame the world for your experience. The world is your mirror, and it reflects faithfully the images you hold in mind. A man may say, I have imagined wealth, but I am still poor. I ask, how did you imagine it? Did you watch it from a distance, or did you feel it as your very own? Did you return daily to that state in thought, or did you allow doubt to dissolve it? Your result is not the fault of the law, it is the result of how fully you gave yourself to the imaginal act. Imagination is not something to be used occasionally. It must be your daily dwelling place. When you rise in the morning, begin with the scene of your desired life. When you close your eyes at night, Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Between waking and sleep, let your mind be filled with visions of your chosen state, and let your heart feel the joy of it. In time, the world will show you what you have been imagining. It has no choice. You may be surrounded by what the world calls facts, but facts are not final. They are simply the outpicturing of yesterday's imaginations. Change them, and you change the facts. Nothing is fixed but that which you refuse to change in mind. Imagination is the beginning of all things. It is the key to the kingdom. Through it, you enter any state, any life, any version of yourself, and the world silently, obediently will follow. If you hear nothing else, hear this. Feeling is the secret, not the words you speak, not the thoughts you casually entertain, but the feeling that you accept as real. That is the true cause behind every condition in your world. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you feel yourself to be. Feeling is the language of the soul, and it is heard by the creative power that shapes your outer experience. Many seek to change their lives by changing their actions, by laboring in the external world. But if the feeling within remains unchanged, all such effort will return to its original state. The truth is simple. Your external world is a reflection of your inner emotional state. To change the reflection, you must change the vibration, and that vibration is feeling. Each state of consciousness carries its own emotional tone. When you dwell in the state of wealth, you feel secure, free, abundant. When you live in the state of love, you feel cherished, whole, alive. These feelings are not decorations. They are not the effect. They are the cause. They are the substance of the reality you step into. When you feel a thing deeply and consistently, you give it life. You nourish it with your attention, and the world takes form around it. This is why you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not someday, now. You must feel it as though it is already done. You must walk in that state, inwardly, with the same assurance as one who has already received. That feeling of certainty, of quiet knowing, that is the signal you send to the deeper self, and it responds with form. There is no deception in this law. You may trick the world, but you cannot trick feeling. You may say, I am wealthy, and yet feel fear, and your world will reflect the fear, not the words. You may say, I am loved, and yet feel loneliness, and the loneliness will shape your world, not your affirmations. The creative power does not respond to what you say, but to what you accept emotionally as true. When I began to understand this, I ceased striving. I stopped asking for things, and I began being them. Emotionally, spiritually within, I would choose a new state. And I would ask myself, what would it feel like if this were already true? And then I would dwell there. I would feel my way into it, gently, persistently, until it felt like home. There was a time I longed for peace, for a sense of ease in life. The world around me was filled with noise, with problems and tensions. But I turned inward and asked, what would it feel like if all were resolved? If my life were in harmony? I did not wait for the world to answer. I answered it within myself. I generated the feeling of peace. I wrapped myself in it like a garment. I made it my inner environment. And though nothing changed immediately, I changed. And because I changed, everything else had to. You must understand, the feeling of a thing always precedes the form of it. You do not feel joyful because something joyful has happened. The happening comes because the joy was felt. You do not wait for the thing to arrive and then feel it. That is the long, hard road. Instead, you create the thing by feeling it before it arrives. If you would be wealthy, feel the wealth now, not through calculation or analysis, but through assumption. Walk in the mood of prosperity. Move through your day with the inner posture of one who already has. Spend in imagination, give in imagination. Feel the freedom, the gratitude, the lightness of one who no longer fears lack, and the world will echo back to you the wealth you have claimed. If you would be in love, do not wait to be chosen. Choose yourself in imagination. Feel the warmth of companionship. Hear the laughter. See the shared experiences. Feel what it is to be seen, accepted, adored. And as you persist in this state, someone will come who matches that vibration. You did not summon them, you met them inwardly, long before they arrived. The law cannot be broken. What you feel is true becomes your experience. And the stronger the feeling, the faster the bridge of incidents appears. You need not know how it will unfold. That is not your concern. You need only feel it, and feel it now. Persist. Do not abandon the feeling because of outer appearances. The outer is always delayed. The inner is the source. You may say, but I do not feel it yet. Then practice. Return again and again in imagination. Build the scene that implies the wish fulfilled. Live in it. Touch it. Breathe it. Until one day you will wake and realize the feeling is natural. It no longer feels like pretending. It feels like truth. And at that moment, your world begins to change. There is no power greater than this. The power to feel your future into being. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for proof. Choose the feeling now. Feel it so deeply that the outer world must conform. And it will. Assumption is not mere wishful thinking. It is the creative act itself. To assume a thing is to claim it inwardly, to possess it in consciousness, and thereby summon it into form. You need not ask how it will come, only dare to assume that it already is. That assumption, when persisted in, hardens into fact. Each moment you walk this earth, you are assuming something about yourself. You are assuming your value, your place, your capacity. The outer world is only a mirror, faithfully reflecting back the internal posture of your own assumptions. You cannot escape this. You are not at the mercy of the world. The world is at the mercy of your inner acceptance. A man who believes himself to be unwanted will find evidence of rejection at every corner, not because the world is cruel, but because he has set the lens through which it must be viewed. He is not seeing the world, he is seeing his assumption reflected back to him. Change the assumption, and the mirror must change. To assume is to live from the end. It is to feel and act as though your desire were already true. This is not pretense. It is the boldest form of faith. It is claiming what the senses cannot yet verify. But the moment you persist in this inner claim, you begin to move through a new state, and the state determines everything. There was a time I desired to live in abundance, yet the evidence around me screamed otherwise. I did not fight the facts. I ignored them, not with denial, but with assumption. I assumed I was already prosperous. I walked in that feeling. I imagined myself receiving, giving, spending with ease. I felt the joy of freedom, and though nothing changed at first, I remained faithful to the new assumption, and then the world reshaped itself to confirm my belief. This is the secret. The outer must follow the inner. The world cannot help but become what you assume it to be. It is bound by law, but most men assume based on appearances. They see lack and assume more lack. They feel rejection and assume it will continue. And so it does. To break the cycle, you must refuse to accept appearances as truth. You must choose your truth and live from it. You must walk in the assumption of the wish fulfilled until it becomes natural. The natural assumption is the creative one. That which feels natural to you will always express itself, no matter what stands in its way.
Let us say you desire to be in perfect health. Then begin now to assume it. Inwardly walk as one who is already whole. Feel the vitality in your bones. See yourself moving freely, sleeping peacefully, living joyfully. Do not concern yourself with the present condition of the body. It is but the outpicturing of yesterday's belief. Change the belief and the body will follow. Every event in your life can be traced back to a seed of assumption. No one can do for you what you refuse to do for yourself. To believe, No outer teacher, no ritual, no external circumstance can replace the creative power of an assumed state. Assume it long enough, and the world will bend to meet you there. Do not say, I will be. That is to project your desire into an ever receding future. Say instead, I am. The present tense is the only tense the creative power understands. You must claim the thing in the now. You must feel it as if it were here, because in truth it is. Every state already exists. You do not create it, you choose it. An assumption is the act of selection. Now, the world may resist your new assumption at first. It may throw up echoes of the old state. Do not be swayed. The bridge of incidents that leads to your fulfillment may carry with it strange turns, but remain loyal to your chosen end. Walk in it, rest in it, trust in it. And in time, the old will dissolve and the new will stand revealed.
There is a subtle moment, a sacred moment, when the assumption takes root. It no longer feels like a fantasy, it feels true. You walk into a room and feel different. People respond differently. The energy has shifted. You did nothing outwardly, yet everything begins to change. That is the power of assumption. That is the beginning of manifestation. Remember, you are not asking for permission. You are not negotiating with the world. You are assuming your rightful state. You are choosing to occupy the version of yourself that already has what you desire. And as you persist, that version becomes flesh. It takes shape in time through events, people, opportunities, but it begins within. You are free to assume anything. That is your gift. You may assume greatness, you may assume love, you may assume peace, health, freedom, success, and you may do so now. There is no delay but the one you impose. And the moment you accept your assumption as real, the world is already shifting to match it. To live in the end is to dwell in the consciousness of already being or having that which you desire. It is not a hope, nor a wish, nor a someday. It is the now, inwardly established, inwardly accepted, and inwardly experienced. If you would manifest your desire, you must go to the end of the story. You must begin where the world says you must finish. You must think from your desire, not toward it. All creation is finished. Nothing is to be made, only chosen. The infinite states already exist. There is a version of you already living the life you seek. But to enter that version, you must align your inner speech, your feeling, your assumption with its reality. You must think from the place where the desire is already fulfilled and make it your dwelling. This is not about pretending. This is not a game of fantasy. It is an inner relocation. You are moving in consciousness from one state to another, from lack to abundance, from sickness to health, from loneliness to love. And you remain there, not as a visitor, but as a resident. To dwell in the end is to deny your senses the final say. You do not argue with appearances. You do not wait for permission from the world to feel fulfilled. You claim your desire as already yours, and you persist in that claim until the outer world, in its time, reflects it back to you. There was a time when everything in my life appeared contrary to what I sought. The facts shouted that nothing had changed, but I knew the facts were only shadows, cast by my old assumptions. So I turned away, not in denial, but in discipline. I returned inwardly, again and again, to the end, to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I assumed it as my truth. I walked in it in silence, in imagination, in feeling. And the world, though slow to respond, responded with precision. You may not see the result at once, but that matters not. Just as the seed does not blossom in the instant it is planted, so too does your assumption need time to mature. But know this, the moment you assume, the moment you feel the reality of the end, the seed is sown, and no force in this world can prevent the harvest if you do not uproot it with doubt. This is where persistence becomes your greatest ally. Most give up too soon. They return to the senses for confirmation, and when they see none, they abandon their inner claim. But the wise persist. They continue to live in the end, inwardly, regardless of what the outer suggests. They remain faithful to the unseen. Ask yourself, what would I see if this were already true? What would I hear, touch, feel, think? What would my world look like from the end? Create that scene in your mind and enter it, feel it, dwell in it, return to it each day, each night, as naturally as breathing. The more you do, the more natural it becomes. And when it feels natural, when it no longer feels like imagining, then it must express. You may be tempted to check for progress, to look for signs, but resist this. That is the habit of living from the old state. When you live in the end, you no longer search. You no longer wonder if it will happen, for in your inner world, it already has. You walk with the knowing that what is felt within must show forth without. This inner conviction is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are aligning your internal world with the reality you choose. And because the world is a mirror, it must align itself with you. But the mirror only reflects what you hold steadily, not fleeting moments of imagination, but sustained assumption. Even when things appear contrary, remain in the end. Especially then, for those contrary events are often the very bridge of incidents needed to bring your desire to pass. What seems like delay is often divine precision. Stay in your end. Refuse to be moved. Let the winds of the world blow, but you remain anchored in the vision already fulfilled. There is a secret joy in this way of being. For when you live in the end, you are no longer a seeker, you are a knower. You no longer ask if it will be, you celebrate that it already is. This joy, this peace becomes your new state, and the world rearranges itself to match it. Let each moment be a rehearsal for the reality you've chosen. Speak from the end, think from the end, feel from the end, and you will find that the end becomes your beginning, and your world will rise to greet you as the one who already has. Everything you behold with your physical eyes, everything you touch with your hands and call real, first began in the unseen, in the invisible workshop of imagination. The true creative power lies not in what is visible, but in what is felt, seen, and constructed inwardly. The outer world is but a delayed echo of an inner act. The senses will always attempt to persuade you that what is seen is all there is, that what is real is only what can be measured, weighed, or touched. But the one who awakens to truth knows otherwise. They know that imagination is not mere fancy or idle daydream, but the divine center of creative cause. It is not something to be played with occasionally. It is the very essence of creation itself. All great changes in a person's life begin with a reordering of imagination. Nothing appears on the stage of life without first being rehearsed in the inner theater. The world you experience is your imagination made manifest. Whether you've used it with intention or neglect, your imagination is the potter's hand, shaping clay into form. There was a moment in my life where everything I desired seemed so far removed from what I lived each day. And it was then that I turned fully to imagination, not just as a tool, but as a dwelling place. I asked myself not what could be, but what already was, if only I dared to believe. I crafted scenes not for escape, but for embodiment. I gave myself over to the inner world as the true world, the one from which all others take their cue. To imagine is to see what the world does not yet see. It is to believe in the reality of the invisible. And as you persist in imagining, you impress upon the deeper currents of consciousness the image of what is to come. These impressions, held with feeling, become the blueprint of your reality. Let no one tell you that imagination is weak or passive. It is the most potent force you possess. It is imagination that dreams cities into being. It is imagination that calls forth music, art, invention. It is imagination that alters the very conditions of a man's life. When you close your eyes and see yourself as you wish to be and believe in that image, you are not escaping reality, you are creating it. The world responds not to your effort, not to your struggle, but to the image you consistently hold of yourself. If you would change your life, you must change the image within. You must rise in imagination again and again until what once felt foreign becomes familiar. Do not wait for permission. Do not seek validation. Go within. Construct the scene that would be true if your desire were already realized. Place yourself there. Feel it, see it. Hear the sounds of success. Sense the fragrance of completion. Touch the joy of fulfillment. And do so as if it were happening now. You need not tell anyone what you are doing. The secret act of imagining is done in silence, but its results speak volumes. The world will not know how or why, but it will be compelled to mirror back to you what you have imagined with conviction. When you rise in imagination and persist in that vision, you begin to shift your identity. You become one with the thing imagined. The world cannot help but conform, because the world is only a reflection of belief, stabilized into structure. This is why it is not enough to imagine once and walk away. You must return often, until the imagined becomes more real to you than the facts. You must love the unseen so deeply that the seen becomes a servant to it. That is the secret. You are not hoping, you are remembering. You are claiming what is already yours by assuming its form within. Imagination does not wait for evidence. It creates evidence. It lives in a realm where nothing is impossible. It does not ask how. It only asks what. And once the what is clear and consistently felt, the how unfolds in perfect order. There will be moments where doubt whispers, when appearances seem unchanged. But those are the very moments when imagination must be trusted most. For the seed of your vision has already been planted. The soil has received it. And your job now is not to dig it up in search of proof, but to water it with belief and let it bloom. You may be tempted to return to the old state, the old identity, but remind yourself, the outer world is slow to catch up, but it always does. Keep imagining, keep seeing yourself as the person you have chosen to be, and as the feeling deepens, your reality must rise to meet it.
Imagination creates reality. It is the birthplace of every breakthrough, every miracle, every transformation. What you imagine with full belief becomes the path you walk. Choose wisely, imagine boldly, and persist faithfully in the unseen.
What you feel is true becomes true. It is not what you merely say or affirm with empty words. It is what you feel that shapes the circumstances of your life. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the path through which the unseen becomes seen, the intangible becomes tangible, and the imagined becomes manifest. Feeling is the key that unlocks the vault of creation. You may think in terms of logic, you may even visualize in vivid detail, but if your inner feeling contradicts the image, the feeling will always dominate. Feeling is the life breathed into the image. Without feeling, the vision remains a shadow. But infused with feeling, it takes on substance and begins to express itself in the world around you. Everything depends on your capacity to feel that which is not yet visible, as though it were already so. The world around you, the so-called facts, are simply the outpicturing of the feelings you've nurtured, entertained, and accepted over time. Your present is the echo of prior states of consciousness, and all those states were sustained by one thing, feeling. To change your life, you must learn to feel differently. This does not mean you must pretend or suppress, but rather that you must learn to dwell in the emotion that corresponds to your desired reality, even before any outer evidence appears. The moment you feel differently, the world begins to move. Maybe not instantly, maybe not in the form you expect, but move it will, for feeling creates movement. The greatest secret is not that you must struggle to achieve. The secret is that you must learn to assume the mood of fulfillment, and that mood, if faithfully maintained, will attract every necessary event every person, every condition to support its expression. It is not your job to manipulate the outer world. Your only task is to accept the feeling of the wish fulfilled as your inner reality, and to remain there until it becomes your outer one as well. Let us say you desire love. Do not merely ask for love. Become the one who is already loved. Ask yourself, how does it feel to be cherished, to be deeply understood and joyfully received? Sink into that feeling. Let it rise in you. Let it replace the old sense of being unwanted or alone. And as that new feeling becomes familiar, the world must correspond, for the inner and outer must always agree in time. This applies to all things: health, wealth, freedom, purpose. Whatever you would bring forth into being must first be felt as real. If you cannot feel it, you cannot have it. For what you do not feel, you are rejecting. And what you reject within, the world must withhold from you. There is no deception here. You may fool others with words, you may even fool your surface mind with repetition, but the deeper self, the true creative center, responds only to what you feel. That is the language of creation. It does not speak analysis, nor doubt, nor hope. It speaks feeling. If your desire is to be free from limitation, you must feel yourself already free. Not later, not when the debt clears or the diagnosis shifts, but now, as a feeling, as a tone, as a mood. Walk in that mood, speak from it, rest in it. Let it rise every morning and guide your steps. And soon the outer will echo what the inner has already accepted. Do not confuse effort with effectiveness. The outer struggle is nothing if the inner state is unchanged. But one who learns the art of feeling the desired state into being walks with quiet confidence. They do not chase results, they assume results. And the world, sensing the power of their conviction, rearranges itself in response. You must learn to linger in the feeling long enough that it becomes familiar, that it no longer feels like pretending, but remembering. This is the turning point. When the feeling becomes natural, when it feels like home, then it must manifest. For all creation begins and ends in feeling. This is the reason many fail. They feel the desire briefly, then return to doubt. They taste the state, then revert to questioning. And so the seed is never allowed to grow. But those who persist in the feeling, who nurture it as one would nurture fire, they are the ones who see mountains move. Feeling is not emotion alone. It is a complete inward acceptance, a knowing beyond logic, a silent agreement between yourself and the version of reality you have chosen. It is not loud, but steady, not forced, but yielded to. It is the quiet certainty that what you feel within is more real than what the senses suggest. So take time daily to enter the scene of your fulfilled desire, not with struggle, but with surrender. Let the feeling wrap around you like a garment. Let it become your second skin. And live from that place. Inwardly, constantly, as you do, the world will bend, not to your will, but to your inner acceptance. Feeling is the secret doorway. And the moment you learn to step through that door, to truly feel your wishes fulfilled, then nothing will be impossible to you. So now we come to the still point, the space where all truth meets itself in silence. What I have shared with you is not theory, but a living reality, demonstrated through experience. These are not steps to be mechanically followed, but principles to be lived, to be felt, breathed, and embodied. You do not need more effort. You need more awareness. You do not need more striving. You need more surrender to the reality that already is within. The life you dream of is not far away. It is not delayed. It is not hidden in some distant future. It is here, waiting for you to recognize it, to feel it, to claim it from within. Every state exists now, and the moment you assume it with conviction, it becomes your dwelling place. That assumption, sustained through imagination, through feeling, and through persistent inner knowing, draws all things to you. You do not need to be deserving in the eyes of the world. You need only accept your desire as already fulfilled, to live in its end, to feel its truth as if it were already yours. And if you will do this, if you will live from the state of the wish fulfilled, rather than towards it, then no power in heaven or earth can prevent its outward expression. Remember, the world is yourself pushed out. The mirror reflects what you are, not what you want. So become the thing desired. Move in your imagination as one who already has. Feel it. Rest in it. Saturate your mind with the scenes and moods of your chosen future. Let your inner world lead. The outer will follow. And when doubts arise, as they sometimes will, return not to fear but to faith. The faith that what you feel and accept inwardly is more powerful than all appearances. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality, the one you have chosen and embraced. And your reward is certain, for it is written in the law of consciousness. What you are conscious of being, you become. So I leave you with this. Assume boldly, imagine faithfully, feel deeply, and persist gently in the knowing that everything you seek is already within. And if you will walk in that knowing, day after day, you will quantum jump into the life that has been waiting for you all along.